for another episode. Let's
Man,
go, my guy.
when we skip a week, bro, it throws me off, man. I feel like we haven't been on here forever, bro.
But we gotta get used to talking to each other all over again. Like we didn't just see each other, you know.
Facts.
But I mean, we thank everybody again for coming to join us, listening in on what we got to say. This week episode is something new. I mean, it's just kind of came up off the cuff about transparency as a promoter. But before we start, please like, subscribe, tell your friends to come subscribe to us. We've been trying to grow this channel. People are talking about we didn't even know y'all's on YouTube, but now y'all know. So come sign up with us. Come subscribe. We're going to try to get a lot more active on that channel. But yeah, let's just go ahead and hop straight into the topic. So this topic came up for multiple reasons. Of course, the show season. Show's been going on since January. I think we're right about the third or quarter mark now, and we see different things that promoters do that we may like, that we may dislike. So I'm gonna actually open the floor up with what is something that you think needs to be mandatory for promoters to do, or that they need to be transparent about at least.
Um, I know some promoters they actually send out a list of athletes. I don't think that should be mandatory, but I think it should be mandatory 2 weeks before a promoter should say, "Hey, this is a pro qualifier for this category." You know what I'm saying? Even at check-ins, they should say, "Hey, you're in this class. You're the only person in this class. Would you like to transfer to a different category?" Because us as athletes, man, we spend a lot of time getting ready for these shows. And it sucks when we're the only person in that category on stage and we didn't know.
Okay,
Or
okay.
when it's only 3 people, 4 people, and there's no pro card awarded because we're one short. So I think that's something promoters should put out to their athletes before that show day.
Gotcha. I could definitely see that because you don't want nobody going into a show and have like the false hopes, like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a pro after I win," or they win and they're like, "Yeah, what happened?" But I'm gonna play devil advocate on that because of course, the promoter can't help who shows up, but you're just basically saying that they need to, or you would prefer for them to at least inform us, like, "Hey, thank you for signing up, but just letting you know in advance, there won't be a pro card awarded for your category."
Absolutely, of course. The
Okay.
promoters can't control who show up, but they can do a better job of promoting that show to make sure all them categories at least got the minimum to reach a pro card.
Okay. Yeah, and I actually seen I think it was maybe in the past where there may have been like one bodybuilder, And of course the promoter reached out to that person like, "Hey, I don't think well, you're the only bodybuilder, I mean, you can compete there, or if you like, if you fit in classic, you can try to get your classic pro card. And I think if I'm not mistaken, that guy might have went pro. And I find that very commendable from the promoter because it's like, "Hey, I don't want you to have wasted 20 to 25 weeks, come here and not stand next to nobody, and then not even be able to go pro." So by them being able to actually switch to classic, I thought that was very commendable by the promoter to give him that shot. I mean, everybody who was in classic probably was like, "Man, what he doing here?" But hey, it's just the way it falls that you just wasn't the best person that day. He came in and beat everybody, so it was kind of cool.
Okay, so let me play devil's advocate with you. So you just said this is a scenario, hypothetically, we're talking about. A
Mhm.
bodybuilder was able to go into classic. OCB is like hammering down on the criteria. So if I was a classic athlete, I would definitely feel some type of way.
I
So
mean,
I'm hoping he met the criteria, the judging criteria for classic.
so in this specific scenario, he fit the criteria. Like he
Okay.
wasn't like no overly like we're talking about. All right, so if we're being honest, we're talking about the amateur level here. So I mean, there's not much of a difference between an amateur bodybuilder and a classic guy. Sometimes they're right there on the line where the main difference may be their conditioning. We really
Yes.
don't see the freakish bodybuilders that we see on the pro level, on the amateur level. They're there because, of course, they have to go through the ranks to get there. But it's very far in between. We see a bodybuilding guy that blows our socks off at the amateur show, like, "Yo, him," I think we've been in a few instances where we saw like two or three guys and we said, hey, they probably should have been in bodybuilding for that show. But then we're also not comparing them to the pros because then it's like a gap. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
I forgot what show it was, but we was at a show and we was like, yo, that dude got huge quads. And I mean, he didn't have the smallest of waist. It was like if he did bodybuilding, he would look a whole lot better than trying to compete against these more aesthetic classic guys. But this guy came in, he was more so of like who can I compare him to? Like Mecca's bodybuilding all the way, but he's like an aesthetic bodybuilder. Like he's like a streamlined bodybuilder. He was more like a Mecca but smaller, and he looked really good. He fit in that lineup. Like he looked good in the lineup that he was in, so he got the nod that day. So I think in that sense, it made sense for him to do classic.
Absolutely. Like I don't disagree with that. Like if he was the only bodybuilder, that dude done worked his butt off to get to where he was. Hey, if he fits the mold, then let him go ahead and get into that classic category and the best man wins at that point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think and I'm gonna kind of answer that question too. There's a few things that I love that some promoters do, and it's just certain ones. Like I take my athletes to certain shows. Of course, if they find a show that's the closest to them, and that's what we're gonna do. But I favor some shows. I favor some promoters. It has nothing to do with like it's just because certain things like I want to see your venue before I show up. Like I shouldn't show up and not know what your venue look like. Like I shouldn't know that when we step up here, we're posing on a cardboard box. Like we got to have a big enough stage for everybody to pose on. Like that's important. Like athletes want to know that. Like what does your pump up room look like? Like how many years have your show been going? What's your average number for your show? Like how hard do you promote your show? Like this is stuff we should see. Like I shouldn't be pulling up to a show and only seeing the flyer once or twice. You know, like social media is a thing for a reason. Like you got to promote the heck out of your show. Like granted, like we already know Florida Pro promotes the hell out of his show. Like all year long, he's going to promote it. You're going to see it. Nam is already promoting his show right now. Presidential. He keeps people entertained. Bobby keeps people entertained all throughout the year and promote his show. So those people are like always making sure that their show is up front. They're promoting it. So it's not like people can't say, "Oh, I didn't know about that show."
Well, then, yeah, and those are the shows where you already know all the categories are most likely going to be pro qualifiers. You know what I'm saying? And don't be scared. Athletes, listen to me. Competitors, listen. Don't be scared to reach out to the promoter and ask that promoter, hey, is this a pro qualifier? Don't be scared. If they leave you on red, then that's effed up. So hopefully they don't do that. Hopefully they answer you honestly. But hey, ask that promoter, hey, I'm signing up for your show. I'm signing up for this category. Is this a pro qualifier?
I definitely like that, and I mean, I think it's even more so of our. I ain't gonna say it's our responsibility, but I mean, it's good to know. Like, I could honestly say as a coach, I haven't reached out to many. Usually, the shows I go to, I try to pick the bigger ones, just so my athlete won't have to, go through that. Like, I know there was an instance where, I think it was only two masters guys, and we needed one more for a pro masters card to be handed out, but other than that, I mean, open most of the shows I went to, I haven't went through an instance where my guy couldn't go pro because of numbers, and that's a good thing. But as of late, we're starting to see it. Like I seen it um, last year, and I felt bad for her. She's a heck of an athlete. It's one of Will Carter athletes. She does women physique. I don't want to mess up her name, but she showed up to like two or three shows last year, and it's just one of those things where women's physique isn't super huge on the amateur level. So I think both shows she showed up to, either she was one or there was two people. So, but she looked amazing both times. Like you could tell she prepped her ass off for it, but it was just like that day just wasn't her day because enough people didn't show up. And that's just something that we can't help. It's also something that the promoters can't help, but it's like you all also wonder like if I'd have did a little bit more to get somebody to this show would it had happened. Who knows?
I got something for you. Check me out right
Uh,
here. Check it out.
uh,
All right.
I don't want.
So we had this conversation before, right? Say you got say you got 5 unfit bodies on stage, right? Like they're not pro ready. but you know they're going to get a pro card because it's 5 in that class or whatever, right? Now, what you just said, you said this girl showed up looking amazing, and she was the only one there. It was her and somebody else. If she had a pro body, do you think they should have awarded her a pro card?
No, we can't do that, man. I would want to. Now listen, I'm gonna stand on my square. I'm gonna stand on my square. Like, I would love to be like, yo, she deserves it. She she looks good. But then if you allow that acceptance for one person, you have to start moving the goalposts for other people. And I don't think that's fair. Because it's like, let's say, for example, there's a guy who, let's just hypothetically say, a men's physique guy who shows up good, looking good, like he shows up in shape, but they'd be like, oh, well, he conditioned, he showed up in shape, we're gonna let him go pro, and then he go to the pro level and get smacked around. It's like,
that happens all the time, though. That happens all the time. So what are we talking about here?
But at least they had to beat the number of people. You know what I mean? Like, they went through the qualifying things to go pro. Like, we didn't just say, hey, here's a handout pro card because nobody else showed up. Like, you can't do that. Like, granted, I seen people who didn't go pro, and I was just like, yo, there's enough people, this person would be a problem. But they just had to find the right show to go pro at, and eventually they're gonna make it, or eventually they made it. But like I said, I don't think we should just hand out cards because, like you said, at the end of the day, there are people who show up to a bad show and they happen to go pro from that bad show.
I mean, that's not handing out a card. You have 5 unfit bodies on stage, knowing they shouldn't be on stage. I've seen it happen, bro, but they get a pro card. That's handing out a pro card because you know they're going to go to the next level and get their head knocked off.
Hey, man, if in high school, if you attend all your classes, complete all the work, you don't have to be a good student. You just got to do the bare minimum to get to the next level. Hey, too far get you into college. They still went to college. Hey, don't mean they're going to do well in college, but they made it there. You know what I mean? They completed all the requirements. They made it on show day. They beat their class, and they earned a pro card. Like, they checked all the boxes.
Hey, listen. And the people that done the bare minimum in high school went to college and dropped out, failed.
Hey, we already know. We already had that discussion. Some people get out there and get to college and just drop straight on out. It's okay. Man. You made it there, and then you like, hey, this ain't for me. I'm done. So, now, I mean, it's one of those things.
To circle back around, it's funny because I got a bodybuilding client, and I'm having a hard time trying to find a show for him because, you know, there's not that many bodybuilders that come to these shows now. Like, everybody is going straight to classic. So we're having a hard time trying to find a show. I got a show in mind. It's later on in the year, and I know that show is going to have the minimum body, but I would love to get him on stage before then. But it's slim pickings out here, man. Because we done been to, how many shows we done been to this year?
Shoot, that we both was at probably about 3 or 4.
How many bodybuilders have we seen? Yeah.
like what? Maybe 1. So
yeah. So,
but nah, it's sad. But I think all in all, I think as an athlete, and all we're asking for is like maybe just a little bit more transparency, mainly in regards to the numbers going into the show. I think that's mainly what this episode is about, and maybe even like different promotion styles. Like, it's a copy paste world. Is monkey see, monkey do. If you see something is working for a show, do it. Like, heck, I know me and Jamal both talked about how we wanted to promote one day. That's still pending and seeing what we think about it later on. But I think all in all, man, if you see something works, the proof is in the pudding. Make it work. What you got?
And us as competitors, we're not asking for no name list. We just want to know, hey, does this category meet the minimum requirements to get a pro card? That's all we want to know. That's it.
And just like that, we're trying this new formula. We're going to actually shorten the shows for you guys to keep your attention all the way through. So tune in next week. Until next time, peace.
Peace.